All right, and shalom, 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 everybody. This is Elder James, and I'm with the King James Bible University, coming out of Durham, North Carolina. And tonight's teaching that we're going to be bringing forth is actually the part 2 that we're going to be picking up on from last week, which was the war within, which is part 2, is the sorrow of the mind. So that's what we're going to be looking at in tonight's teaching. But before we get started, we do want to make it known, as we always do, that we here at the King James Bible University and the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel, that we are not affiliated with any Christian organization or any Christian denomination or any Black Hebrew street camp Israelite organization or anything of the sort. We here at the King James Bible University and the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel, we stand alone, and we only hold to the 1611 Sovereign King James Bible with the Apocrypha. We don't share any notes, we don't affiliate, nor do we associate with any outside organizations outside of KJBU and the House of the Lost Sheep of Israel. So we just want to make that known. But again, I want to say shalom, shalom to everybody that's joined here tonight. But before we get started, I do have a statement that I'm gonna make, which is I'm making this statement across the board to everyone here, which this is specifically pertaining to all the brothers and everybody that teaches. So I'm gonna make this statement so we all can clearly understand this, for each and every single one of us here that actually teaches. So based on everything that's been happening over the last couple of weeks, due to the recent events that's been taking place over the last couple of weeks, and because of the lack of explanations that's not being given on lessons and things that's been going out, so we have some necessary changes that needed to be made moving forward regarding teachings. So what's going to be happening is all teachers, including myself, we all must ensure that we are all able to clearly explain, clearly elaborate on, and properly break down the scriptures that we are all actually presenting in our lessons. So, and that goes for every verse that we actually running. So just running verses after verse, back to back, without providing any explanation or even demonstrating the ability to give a thorough understanding of the verse that we running, that would be no longer acceptable here. I just want to make that clear, and hopefully we all understanding that. So if a lesson goes out and consists of merely we just reading verses back to back without properly expounding on them, then those teachers who are doing so are going to start receiving phone calls regarding their lessons, and those teachings going to start coming down. So I want to make that clear. So this means teachings will not only be removed for presenting false information, but also for failing to thoroughly explain the scriptures that we actually running and that we actually presenting. So just so y'all know, this change has already been approved by Elder Johnson. So we just want to make that clear, and we want to make sure everyone is aware of it moving forward on what we need to be doing, because I want to show us something on that real quick. Just so all of us here, everyone that teach, we can all understand something and understand what we actually supposed to be doing here. So I want to show us something. I'm gonna go over here to Deuteronomy chapter 16, and I want us to look at verse 18 because I want us to see something. He tell us something here. He tell us here in Deuteronomy 16 to 18, it says judges. So we know these are teachers. Teachers and officers shall thou make in all thy gates, which the Spirit of God thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes. And they shall judge. They shall teach the people with just judgment. So with just doctrines and teachings. So this shows us that as teachers here, each and every single one of us, we all have a responsibility here before God and before the people of God who come here to learn. We cannot just sit here and just simply run verse after verse and move on. That's why I say that's no longer acceptable here. That's not, we can't roll like that no more. That can't happen. But we must actually teach. We got to break down these scriptures. We got to break this bread. We got to break this doctrine down and give understanding. So our duty is to rightly divide the word of truth by imparting understanding, imparting knowledge, and giving wisdom in a way that edifies those who are listening and those who are here to learn. That is the standard that we have to hold ourselves to here moving forward as teachers of Jehovah's word. So we have to understand here at KJBU, King James Bible University, this is a university. We here to learn. We here to educate. We here to bring clarity. We here to edify. So that's the focus that we have to remember on what we are actually here to do as servants of Jehovah. I want to show us this so we can clearly understand where I'm actually coming from with this on what I'm saying. Because I want to show us over here in 2 Timothy chapter 2. In 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 24, you see what he said here. It says, and the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all, apt to teach, patient. But you see right here what he's saying? I want to unhighlight that. You see what he's saying? Apt to teach. I want all of us to keep that in mind. Apt to teach. So this is our duty, and that's the key. We must be apt to teach, meaning we must be ready. We have to be fit. We have to be prepared to impart this knowledge to Jehovah's people with clear understanding. So first, our houses have to be set in order, because how can a man take care of the church of God if his own house ain't in order first? So we got to make sure that we're ready to teach. We're ready to exhort. We're ready to edify. That's the main point. So each and every single one of us here who teaches is here to impart knowledge, to give instruction, to provide exhortation, and give counsel and edify the body of Jehovah. So we're not here to just simply run verses, just showing people that we know how to precept. We get that. We understand we can go from verse to verse, but that's not enough. And then we think we're just going to go about our business. No, we can't do that without giving people any type of understanding to actually take back with them and for them to glean from. That at that point, that's just a waste of time, and that has to stop. So again, if you are gonna run, clearly understand what I'm saying. If you're gonna run 20, 30, 40 verses in your teaching, understand what I'm saying, then you need to have an explanation for every verse that you present. Whether it's a short explanation, whether it's a short paragraph or two on that verse, you must be able to clearly explain the verse that you're using based on the verses that you're running. Hopefully we understanding that. Especially if you're writing your lesson out. If you're writing your lesson out and you're running 20, 30, 40 verses, then you should have more than enough information in that lesson, in that teaching, that could easily stretch to 2 to 3 hours long. That means you can divide it into multiple parts if we run that many verses. That's why I want us to understand. That's the point. So there should be no reason for any lesson to go out that's less than 30 minutes long. If we explaining every verse that we running, there ain't no reason for any lesson to be less than 30 minutes. Actually less than a 45 to an hour, if you want to be honest. If we truly taking out the time to thoroughly explain the scriptures that we present. So that's the point. Now, if you choose to group multiple verses together, then that's another thing. And you're going to demonstrate how they're working together, then that's fine as well. As long as we can clearly explain how those verses connect and support one another. So that's fine. But if that's not happening, and if lessons just simply we just running verse after verse after verse after verse without giving explanation, without giving edification or a proper breakdown of the scriptures being ran, then like I said, again, those lessons going out, those phone calls going to come, those phone calls going to be made, and those lessons are going to start coming down. So the easiest way for all of us here to correct this, for all of us brothers here to correct this, all we got to do, just reduce the number of scriptures that we're using. That's all we got to do. And focus on less verses and more explaining. That's all we have to do. By doing that, we can then clearly explain each passage, breaking it down properly, ensuring that the people being fed and they leave with more understanding rather than simply just writing down a whole bunch of verses. See, that's the whole point. See, I'm gonna even show us this because I want to show us why I'm even saying it the way I'm saying it, because you can even see here in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 19. This is one of the most important parts here that we have to understand. It says, yet in the church, so within the body, I had rather speak 5 words with my understanding. That's the point. That by my voice, I might teach others also. You see how teach, not just running verses, we're saying, well, the precept explained itself. No, teach others also than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. Nobody know what you're talking about. So the main thing is we want to make sure that the body, the church, the listeners here are clearly getting an understanding of what we're speaking on and what we're teaching on. We don't want to just run a whole bunch of verses back to back and not giving any explanations, because that's not benefiting anybody. That's just you just edifying yourself at that point. Then what benefit is that? It's no benefit. That's why he tell you in verse 4, it said, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself. Yeah, you know what you're talking about. But he that prophesieth edifieth the church. That's the focus. We gotta teach the body. We got to give understanding. So if nobody knows what we're talking about and we not breaking nothing down and we just running verse after verse, that's speaking in an unknown tongue, because those words not being made known, the understanding not being given. The only one being edified is you. You might know what you're saying, but we have to break down these scriptures and clearly expound on them, clearly explain and give clarity on the words that we speaking so that the church, the body, can be edified. That's why I say it's not about us, but it's about edifying the people. That's why, again, it goes right back to the same thing. I'd rather speak 5 words with my understanding than 10,000 words. So it's easier to just run a few verses and give clear, full understanding on them than just running a whole bunch of verses back to back with no understanding. So we just want to make sure that we making this happen and moving forward. So I just want to make sure that everyone here, all the brothers that teach here, that moving forward, we understand what's happening and we understand what we need to be doing. So I just want to make sure we understand that. So with that, so we're going to go ahead and get started on what we actually looking at in this teaching. So like I said on last week, we looking at this war within. We're looking at this battle, which we know the war is between the flesh and the spirit because they're contrary. So, and how this battle that goes on within our own body, because the flesh is always going to war against the spirit. That's what we have to understand. So we know that we're having this constant issue with us, with a lot of us on a daily basis in our walk. So if we having this issue, then that's letting us know that we are allowing the things that's in our hearts to actually control our minds. Why? Because we know every imagination of man was only evil continually because it came from the heart, which we can see this again. I want to show us back over here in Genesis chapter 6. In Genesis chapter 6, which I'm going to delete this. And he tell you in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5, he tell you, says, and God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. That's the part we need to focus on right here. Every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. So this lets us know where the issues actually stems from. It stems from the heart, because you can even see right here. You see how it says the thoughts of his heart. It's letting you know that it's coming from. It's coming out of. It's starting with the heart, because that's how from functions. Of is it functions as from, is belonging to, is out of, is starting with. So this letting us know that imaginations, that every imaginations of the thoughts, which is the mind of the heart. So the imaginations of the thoughts, so of the mind from his heart, was only evil continually. So it's out of the heart. It's starting with the heart. So we should see how this is working. So if we following after the desires of our heart, that's where everything starts. That's where everything is coming from. So the heart just has desires. That's it. It just has desires. So the heart speaks those desires to the mind. And then when those desires go to our mind, we're going to plan it out and we're going to do it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to think on it. We're going to plan it out, and then we're going to act on it. That's what happens. So the imaginations of disobedience, any wickedness that we think in our own minds, most of us believe that it starts with a thought, and that's not it. That's not true. It don't start with the thought. It don't start there. That's the point I wanted us to see. The thought came from and started with the desire that was already within us. Then it goes to your thoughts. That's what happens. That's why the heart and mind work together hand in hand. That's why you always going to see that. That's why you always going to see that. And I'm going to show us a couple of them here. That's why you're going to see that they always going to work hand in hand like that. That's why you see this in Job chapter 17 and verse 11. It says, my days are past. My purposes are broken off. Even the thoughts of my heart. You see this here? That's the point. That's the key that we see right here. Even the thoughts of my heart. You see how this keep running like that? You see how he says that? The thoughts of my heart, the thoughts from my heart, the thoughts starting with my heart. That's where it's coming from. It's letting you know the thoughts is always coming from the heart. The heart, which is the desires, are already there within you. They're not doing anything else but sending those very desires up to our mind, and we're going to think on it, and we're going to put them into action. So again, if we following after our heart, then that's how we always going to get ourselves in so much trouble. This is how we always getting ourselves jacked up, because we letting our heart, our own desires of our flesh control our actions, and it put us in so much trouble, which he tell us that we supposed to avoid this. We shouldn't even be getting caught up in this, but we doing it anyways. Which he tell us over here in Sirach chapter 5, you're going to see it's the same thing he telling us in Sirach chapter 5 and verse 2. He tell you right here, it says, follow not thy own mind and thy strength. Watch this, to walk. So to live in the ways of thy heart. You see how he keep telling us the same thing? You see how he said to follow not thy own mind? To what? To walk, to live in the way of thy heart. Why? Because your mind done been corrupted by the desires of your heart now. So when you follow your own mind, you living in the ways of your own desire. That's what's happening. That means we done started listening to the desires of our own heart. So we gonna do whatever we think and what we believe is right. So the heart sends that desire to the mind, then comes the thought of disobedience. Now we start reasoning with things in our own mind based on the desire that was already there. Now you're going to follow after your own mind and your own strength. Get you caught up just like that. This is how this works. So it's showing us that man's heart is continually wicked. It's continually evil. It's always evil. It's always wicked. Man's heart, man's desires is always wicked. It's always evil. That's all it's going to do. So even from our youth, I want to show you that because he tells us, I want to show us that. Let's go over here. Let's go back over here. Let's go up here to Genesis chapter 8. Let's look at this. And Genesis chapter 8, because most people think this might start later on. No. We be having these wicked desires in us from our youth. He tells us this. Let's look at this. In Genesis chapter 8, verse 21, it says, "And the Lord smelled a sweet savior, and the Spirit of God said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth." You see that? That's the part that we need right there. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. So he let you know. So that's the only part we needed. So he let you know that, again, these wicked thoughts and imagination, these thoughts of disobedience, which are sin, are of the heart. They come from the heart. That's where it starts. But it's showing you that these things is evil. These is wicked from our youth. when we were children, when we was born. Why? Because we was all born into sin. We was all brought forth in flesh. Matter of fact, he even tell you something, because I want to put this here so I can show you exactly what I'm even saying with that. So you see this in Psalms chapter 51 and verse 5. He even tell you himself. David tell you, it says, "Behold, remember, I was shapen in iniquity and acts of sin, and in sin did my mother conceive me." So you see that. You see that. A man's heart is evil from his youth. We brought forth in flesh. But you have a lot of people. You have a lot of us here who like to believe and will believe just because children are young, then that just makes them innocent. That just makes them pure. And that's not true. How is that true? How can a child just be innocent and sinless when they flesh? They flesh. When they in sinful flesh. You see, just like a newborn baby or an infant child may not have physically done anything wicked or physically done anything wrong, but because he is flesh and he's in sinful flesh, that makes him susceptible to the evil and wicked desires of the heart. And he won't know any better unless he's taught. So these fleshly desires begin from his youth. That's why you see this here. He already telling us man's heart is evil from his youth. Yet you got people that will believe that little children are just innocent and just sinless. When that's not true, because no flesh is innocent. No flesh is sinless. All flesh is sinful flesh. That's the point. But then you got some, they'll start off one way, and then as soon as they grow up, they might get caught up in a lot of trouble in life, and then people sit there and wonder what happened. So people sit there and say, "Oh, well, he was such a good child when he was little. I don't know what happened to him." Yeah, that's because of those evil, wicked desires that's there. They was already there from the beginning. That's the point. But we like to ignore stuff like that because they ain't done no evil. People sit there, "Well, my child can't do no wrong." Okay, you got a lot of people that got a whole bunch of unruly and disobedient, rebellious children out here. But people look at that childness and think that's innocence when that sinfulness is already there in that flesh from his youth. And he don't even have to do anything. Matter of fact, let me show you something. Even prove the point, even what I'm saying. Let's go over here to Romans chapter 9. I want to show you. In Romans chapter 9, I want to show you something. In Romans chapter 9 and verse 11, it says, "For the children, being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to the election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth." But you see here it say, "For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil." That's the point I was making. So this is the same thing as pertaining to Jacob and Esau. Children not yet being born, done no evil, neither one. Jacob nor Esau. But still, God hated Esau, but he loved Jacob. You see it right here. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, Jacob have I promised, but Esau have I hated, because he hated those ways of sin. That's what Esau is, because it was already in him. That's the point that I'm showing with this. So no act has to be done. No act has to be committed. Just because no evil is committed, that don't mean that sin is not already there. Why? Because sin is already in the flesh. Why? Because you're gonna see it right here. Because we're gonna see the same thing. You go right here. You go right here. The Genesis chapter 25 and verse 25. He tell you right here the same one. It says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name. They called his way Esau. So he came out red. That's the point. He came out covered in sin. That's the point I'm making. He came out sinful. He was covered in it. He was covered in this sin. He was covered in this stubbornness, this pride, and this disobedience. It was already there from the beginning. That's the point I'm making. Because even all of us, each and every single one of us here was brought forth in this sinful flesh. That's the whole point that I'm making. So that's what I'm saying. That evil, that wickedness of the heart is already there from his youth. Because it's in the flesh. That's the point. That's the point that I'm making. Because the same thing is what you can even see. The same thing is what you can even see, even why Paul can't even make these statements here on what you see right here. I got to unhighlight all this stuff. That's why you can even see why he even saying this here. In Romans chapter 7, verse 17 and verse 18. Now then, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me. Why? Because it's in the flesh. It says, for I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good, I find not. Not in this flesh, because it's sin in it. It's full of sin. It's covered in sin. That's the point. So that's why you can even see this right here. Sin is already imputed to the flesh. It's covered in sin. So the desires of a man's heart is evil. The imagination of a man's desire is evil from his youth. Because sin is already in him already. Those imaginations or thoughts of disobedience start from our youth. That's the point. It's not something that just randomly pops up and randomly comes later on in life. It's already there from the beginning. We just start reasoning with it once those desires go to our mind and we start acting on them. We start acting on them. Those wicked desires, those start from the beginning. Soon as we born in this world. Because we already brought forth in flesh. We already brought forth in sin. So we already got that wicked heart. That's the point I'm making. Do y'all remember when Elder first taught us about destiny and he broke down to us how he worked? And he spoke to us about all those frequencies and all those 666 different ways of Satan that can get us caught up. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember he was telling us about that? You see, we didn't start receiving those later on in life. That's the point. They didn't just suddenly appear out of nowhere. No, those things started from our youth. We was given to that evil from our youth. As soon as we was born, we began receiving those fleshly cravings. As soon as we was born, we began receiving those fleshly desires, those lusts, fear, anxiety, pride, wrath, covetousness, and every other carnal wicked desire that's out there. He told us this. The imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. That's the point. So you see, a lot of the things that many of us are struggling with right now, even in our adulthood, are fleshly cravings and lustful desires that we were already receiving from the beginning, from our youth, before we even physically did anything. Before we ever thought on them to the point of committing those wicked acts. Those desires was already there. They was already there. Because the heart of man itself is evil from his youth. Hopefully we understand what's going on. So let's go over here and look at this. Let's look over here in Ephesians. He tells us in Ephesians chapter 2. We're going to hit verse 2 and verse 3. It says, wherein in time past ye walked, so you live according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children, so these workers of disobedience, among whom also we all had our conversation in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind. So you see that. We fulfill the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath. So these workers of wrath, even as others. That's exactly what we doing. You see, because if we fulfill the desires of the flesh, why? Because those desires of the flesh is in our heart. So guess what? They're going to go straight to our mind. That's why he said, and including of the mind. That's what it's going to do. This is exactly what we was doing in our youth. Being children in understanding, consumed in the lust of our flesh. Why? Because we was following after the desires of our heart. And we reasoned those things out in our mind, that the things that we was doing was good, and we acted on them. This is the stuff that we was doing. That's why I say, even right now, a lot of us struggle with this. We struggling with this even right now. We struggling with the things that we were supposed to have left behind in the past once we came to the knowledge of the truth. But again, we have to remember, it's a war within. We still at war. We still at war. Why? Because he tell us right here in Galatians chapter 5, verse 17. You see it here. It says, for the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary, the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would. They contrary. It's at war. That's the fight. That's the battle. The battlefield is right there within our body, and we battling in our mind. The flesh against the spirit. Always contrary. Always at war. That's the issue. The flesh is going to lust against the spirit always. People sit there and say, well, I'm struggling with this. I got this going on. I got this going on. But then we always getting caught up because we keep trying to reason with flesh. How you going to reason with flesh? You already know it's contrary to JEHOVAH. It's not subjected to the law of God. So how you going to reason with it? Can you make that make sense? We already know that our flesh is going to try to get us to do something different from what we know is right in our mind. We already know this. So how in the world are you going to sit there and reason with it? So when we do something, when we do things from our heart, it's going to make us change something automatically on what we're supposed to be doing. It don't matter what we do. We're going to change from what we're supposed to be doing to doing something differently. So that's the point that I'm trying to get us to understand. Same as you see. He tell us. Same as you see. In Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9, it says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Who can know it? So we already know it's deceitful. We already know it's crafty, it's subtle, it's cunning above all things. We seen that last week. And desperately wicked. It's extremely wicked. It's utmost extremely wicked. There's not one thing in this world that's more wicked than a man's own heart. We know this. So then why do people sit there and we sit there and say, as soon as we do something, the first thing we want to do, we want to put God in it, talking about, well, God know my heart. Yeah, he know your heart is wicked. But we want to sit there and say, well, God know your heart. How you going to sit there and say, well, that God know your heart when you don't even know your own dang heart? People sit there, we have all these crazy thoughts saying, thinking, well, dang, where that come from? Where that thought come from? Where this thought come from? Talking about, I don't even know why I keep having all these wicked thoughts. I don't know why I keep having all these wicked thoughts in my mind. But we think it's coming from our mind. That's what I'm saying. That's our problem. We think it's coming from our mind, and it's not. Those desires are traveling from the heart to your mind. So by the time it's in your mind and you start thinking about it, you wondering, well, where the hell where this come from? Because it's in your heart. It's showing you got wicked desires in your heart. But our issue is we're going to sit there and try to reason with it. So we sit there and we say, well, I don't know where these wicked thoughts coming from. We act like we so shocked. Like we saying, you got the thought in your mind talking about, well, I don't want to think that. I don't want to think that. You wonder where they're coming from, and it's letting us know that we got wicked desires within us. that we don't even know that we got. That's exactly the reason why we need JEHOVAH to actually reveal these desires to us, to show us that so we can know what it is. But majority of us here don't even want to see ourselves for who we truly are. We don't want to see it. But this is where all of our issues actually come from. It's always going to come from, it don't start in your mind. The mind going to take it and ponder on it and reason with it so you can act on it. But it's coming from that desire that's already there. It's a lot that's there. See, that's why we have the issue. They need to actually tell us that this is an issue, because you see it right here in Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 23. It says, keep thine heart with all diligence. That's what we should be doing. It says, for out of it are the issues of life. Like I said, out of that heart, this is where the issues of life. That's why we having all these problems. That's why we having all these issues. This is where all of our issues are coming from, because he tell us what these issues are, which I want to even show us some of them, which we can even see JEHOVAH, he picks up on this and he shows us. He said in Mark chapter 7, he even tell us in Mark chapter 7, verse 21 down to 23, he even tell us some things. It says, for from within, out of the heart of man, what? The issues of life that you see right here, what? Proceed evil thoughts. That's our issue. Adulteries, issues. Fornication, issues. Murders, issues. Thefts, issues. Covenants, issues. Wickedness, issues. Deceit, a lot of us got those issues. Lasciviousness, a lot of us got those issues. And evil eye, evil understandings, we got those issues. Blasphemy, pride. Oh shoot, we sure got this issue. Pride is a big issue. Foolishness, all these evil things come from within and defile a man. That's exactly the point. That's the whole point. So it ain't no reason to sit here and wonder where these thoughts come from. You know where they come from. You know exactly where they come from. And I'm showing you, you seeing where they coming from. It ain't just a random thought. People say, I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that came from. You know where that came from. Because we already have those desires within us. Then that same wicked desire of the heart, all it did was travel right up to the mind so we could reason it out and do it. Adultery, fornication. These wicked acts are not mistakes or random thoughts. We think these things out and we do it. Men sitting there cheating on their spouses with other women. You thinking that out in your head. You don't sit there and looked upon a woman, and he already tell you, once you look upon her, you don't commit adultery already in your heart. But you go sit there and think upon it. You gonna look and think about what you could be doing. Thinking about what you could be doing with her. You reason that out. You planning that out. That's what happens. You got women that even go out that marriage and get with other men. You got men and women who not married sitting there laying up with each other. This is what I'm talking about. These lustful desires are already there within a person's heart. But then you have people that sit there and think that these things can't happen to them. Oh, I won't get caught up like that. That can't happen to me. But the same ones who think that this can't happen to them is the main ones who it's going to happen to. Because you think it can't happen to you. Because if you already had that desire there, like I said, remember, man don't even know his own heart. That's why he said, who could know it? Man don't even know his own heart. So all he got to do is get exposed. All Satan got to do is put the right thing before you. All he got to do is put the right thing in your face to get you to go after it. And he'll get us caught up just like that. But for some reason, we think we playing with Satan. We think we stomping on the devil's head. A lot of us still have that mindset. We still come out the same. We came out the building. We still think we stomping on the devil's head as if he ain't been doing this forever to get us caught. Soon as you think about messing around with that person, you already committed that out in your heart because you already desired it and you reasoned it out that it was good. And you wondering where that thought came from? It was already in you. That's the point. Because our lust is based on the things that we believe that we want, that we covet after. And that's our biggest issue, because we always chasing after something that we shouldn't be. We can even see this in action. I want to show us this in action, which you can even see here. I want to show us this because you can even see here in Susanna with these two elders here. You can even see this here. I want you to see this in action here. Watch how this happened. It said, now, when the people departed away at noon, Susanna went into her husband's garden to walk. Watch this. And the two elders saw her going in every day and walking. So let you know they watching her. They already watching her. Watch this. So that their lust was inflamed toward her. You see? This desire is already within their heart. It's already there. Now watch what they did. And they perverted their own mind. You see that? You see how that lustful desire was in their heart and it went straight to their mind? You see how they did? It went straight to their mind and corrupted their mind just like that. This is what I'm talking about. And turned away their eyes. So it turned away their understandings that they might not look unto heaven nor remember just judgments. So just doctrines and teachings. Just like that. So these two elders, they corrupted their own minds because of the lust that was already in their hearts. What? It turned away their understandings from Jehovah's doctrines and teachings. You see how crazy this gets? All behind their lust, how they can take you away. That desire went right into their mind and corrupted it. And they chose to turn away from Jehovah's way. But this is exactly what we'll do, because we'll act like we forget. Because we want to go after something so bad. Now we act like we don't forgot Jehovah, just so we can please ourselves and our own lust. You see them doing it right here. Look at them. Verse 10. It said, and albeit they both were wounded. They both were wounded with her love. Yet there's not one show another his grief. Watch. It said, for they were ashamed to declare their lust. That they desired to have to do with her. Yet they watched diligently from day to day to see her. This is what we talking about. This is what we talking about. So this is exactly why I even said it before. A lot of us we'll know exactly what we doing. We will know exactly the stuff that we doing, and we'll sit right there, and even we'll sit there and talk about how ashamed we are of it. Same as that. They was ashamed to declare their lust, but we ain't gonna stop doing it though. That's the difference. How you ashamed, but you gonna keep doing it anyways? That's what I'm saying. Look at what they did. They was ashamed to declare their lust, but they still did it. It's no different from how people like to sit there and do stuff in secret and don't want nobody to know what they doing. Even entertaining things and looking at things behind the scene that you shouldn't be looking at because you ashamed of it. So you're going to do it in secret, but you don't want nobody to know, but you still going to desire it and do it anyways. What you ashamed of it for? Ain't no different. Ain't no different, because same thing. It ain't no different from what you it ain't no different from what you see right here. Same thing you see right here. You see, same as that. That's why we did this. It says, and the eyes of them both were open. They knew they was naked. They knew they was in sin. So they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves apron. That's why we ashamed. We ashamed because we know we in sin. Because we don't want to be exposed for it, but we still gonna desire to go after that very thing we shouldn't be going after. But you ashamed. Make it make sense. You still gonna do it. You see, they diligently watched this woman. They watched her diligently, day to day. They watching her every single day so that they could fulfill that desire of their lust when it should have been in the book. They making sure they fulfill that fleshly desire and forgot about the ways of Jehovah. Looking at stuff they shouldn't be looking at. Going after something they shouldn't have been going after. See, this ain't even got to be about sensual desires. Think about all the things that we go after in this world that we love. Same thing, just as they loved her, we think about all this stuff that we love. Think about how we can diligently chase after fleshly things every single day, day to day, nonstop. Everything that we love in this world that we can see, turning our understanding away from this book, from JEHOVAH, from this law, from these judgments, just so we can continue to fulfill all that desire. Perverting our minds with everything that we desire in this world. That ain't no different from what these two men was doing here. All that's going to do is eventually bring forth death. Because he already tell us, with that mind, that carnal mind, the carnally mind is death. The carnally minded is death. That's all it's going to bring forth. A complete separation from God. But guess what? We choose that. That's our own fault. When we sit there and we choose to do things like that. Because he even tell us here. And let's go over here. Let's go over here to James. Now we still looking at these issues. So let me see. As a matter of fact, I wanna put this back over here because I actually want to keep that there. Because I want to show we still looking at these issues. We see these issues. We still looking at these issues here. But I want to show us this over here in James. Let's see this. He tell us right here in James chapter 1. James chapter 1, we're going to hit verse 13. James chapter 1, verse 13 down to verse 15. And he tell us, it said, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man, so every male or female, is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust. Yep, and enticed. So you're going to be taken away. And when lust is have conceived, it bringeth forth sin. Yep, because now it's in your mind. And sin, so those evil, wicked thoughts, when it's finished, it bringeth forth death. Why? Because as soon as you act on it, as soon as you do it, now it's going to bring forth death. It's going to bring forth that separation because you're going to plan it out. You're going to act on it. It's going to bring forth death every single time. That's because of the desire that was already there within us. Death is going to happen. You can even look at this even on the physical level when people do these things. You got a lot of people that do things out of their own desires and cause death. Look at all the murders that go on in this world. That's why you see it said murders. Look at all the uncalled for deaths that happen, all behind the wicked desires of men. Because we have to understand something. Murder is deliberate. That's why I want us to understand. Murder is deliberate. It's premeditated. That's the point. Because you thought about it. You planned it out. That's the point. So if you can sit there and deliberately take someone else's life, it's showing you already had that desire within you. All it did, you just thought about it. You just planned it out how you could take their life. Look at all these guys. Look at all these guys that go into these places and shoot up these schools. You got these people going to these schools, shooting up these places that go around deliberately killing people, killing children in schools. Then you had one of them I seen, I can't even remember what his name was, but he sat there, he uploaded a video on YouTube hours before the shooting, hours before he actually went to that school and shot it up. He made a video on YouTube. He showed a video on what he was going to do. Then he wrote a suicide note to his family and then was sitting there on the video showing his guns on the video hours before he went to the school and killed those people, showing you that wicked desire of the heart. It was that went to his mind. They planned this out in their mind already before he did it because he made a video on it. He's showing you what he was going to do. And then when you have people that do stuff like this, when they get caught or they get killed or they might take themselves out, the first thing that people sit there and say is, first thing what they want to say is, well, he was a good kid. He never bothered anybody. But then they want to say that he had these mental health issues. How he got mental health issues? He ain't had no mental health issues. He already had that wicked desire there in his heart from the beginning. All he needed was to give himself a reason to go kill somebody because he thought about it. He planned it. He premeditated it. That's the point. The same thing even with people who steal, people who thieves, breaking into people's houses, robbing businesses, holding people at gunpoint, causing people to lose their lives, all behind this type of stupidity, all behind that lust and greed that's in their own heart. See, these are not just random thoughts. Those are wicked desires that was already there in your heart before you did it. So when you thought about it, that desire traveled to your mind and you reasoned it out and you planned it out to commit that act. That's what happens. Look at all the craziness that goes on in the world today. All because we lusting after things that don't even belong to us. Think about it. We lust after power, even in this country here, even in America. You see, we like to try to go around and try to dominate other countries and other people because we think we the biggest, baddest country walking around in this world. That's what we think. That everybody else just supposed to fear us. Everybody else just supposed to be scared of us and bow down to us and submit to us. So we like to go into these other countries, murdering people who ain't did nothing to us and try to dominate their lands, all behind covetousness and greed. Tell me we don't sit here and do this. And then as soon as we do that and now they retaliate, now we want to act like everybody else is a threat to us. Now we want to play the victim and act like they the ones that are wrong when we the ones who started. When we the ones who the threat. That's what I'm talking about. But then when they sit there and fight back, we want to act like everybody else the problem. Now they the threat. When we the ones who created the threat in the first place. All behind our own lusts. All behind our own lust for power. Our own lust for greed. All behind the desires of the heart of man. Which again is continually evil and is continually wicked. When we the ones that come up with all these wicked, evil imaginations of thought that carry out all this stuff. Because that's what our desires are. But then we want to go out here and we want to put it on everybody else. And this is the type of stuff that we do. Then we wonder why we have the issues that we have. That's what I'm talking about. Even in this world as a whole, this is what happens because of our own wicked inventions. This is the stuff that we come up with. We come up with stuff, we create issues, and now we want to act like is everybody else the problem. He tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 29, it says, "Lo, this only have I found, that God have made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions." We the ones that do that. People, because of our own desires, we the ones that come up with all these wicked inventions and imaginations. People create problems in this world because of their own lustful desires, then act like they gonna fix them. They gonna be the ones to fix them when they created them. They the ones that create the problems in the first place. Now you want to turn around and act like you gonna fix it. That don't make sense. That's hypocrisy. Go right back to the same thing. You see it over here: deceit, thieves, covetousness, wickedness, deceit. You see it. So deceit, it functions as this cunningness, this deception, this hypocrisy, this falsehood, all this falsehood, this hypocrisy and this deceit that goes on in this world. People that are cunning and manipulative deliberately sit there and try to manipulate and deceive others into doing things that don't even make sense and get you to believe things that's not even true. We create problems and then we're going to act like we the ones that's fixing them. We act like we the savior. We create the issue. Now we become the savior. This is crazy. It's deceit. This is how we get caught up. That's the craziest thing in the world. It's hypocrisy. That's why I'm like, it's crazy because shoot, me and Elder was even talking today about a whole bunch of stuff. We were just talking about it. This is how you have so many people why they was able to sit there and convince the entire world about that dang COVID virus. They was able to convince the world that the vaccine was going to save everybody's life. They convinced everybody when majority of the people that took the vaccine, especially those that was already sick, were the main ones that was dying because a lot of them already had serious health conditions already. So when they took the vaccine, it was already making their immune system weaker than what it already was. But then they try to sit there and blame it on everybody else. They try to tell you that it was the people who refused to take it was the issue. When a virus was something that they themselves caused. Now they come up with a vaccine. Now they're saying, well, now they caused the issue, which they're going to act like they didn't. Now they're going to come up with a vaccine and say, you know what? We got a solution. Crazy. Making people believe that they have a cure, something that they said they had created from a dang bat and spreaded it. Now they act like, you see, this vaccine, this virus is all over the world. Now you got a cure. When they the ones who created the issue in the first place. That's deceit at its finest. That's what I'm talking about. It's manipulation. It's lies. It's hypocrisy. All behind the desire of the heart for lust and for power, for wealth. This is what we do. Think about all the money that these pharmaceutical companies out here made behind these shots. Think about all the money that them jokers made. It wasn't nothing but a whole bunch of foolishness. Telling people if they don't get the shot, this gonna happen. And many of us, even here, fell for it out of fear because they was able to manipulate our mind. Why? Because they got to our heart first. If they can get to your heart, they can corrupt your mind. That's the point. They played on our hearts. They manipulated us into believing that crap. That's the point, because it deceived you. But now, to this very day, look at those same vaccinations have limitations and regulations on them today. You can't even get them like you could get it when they first came out. They don't put stipulations on them now. They don't put limitations and regulations on them now. People can't even get them like easily as they used to do. If those, so again, this is the question that you have to answer. If those vaccinations were the cure, if those was truly the cure, then why do they have to put limitations on them now and restrict access to people who can actually get them? Why are they doing that? It should be no different than anything else, than any other medication that you could just go and get. Why are they putting all these restrictions and all these limitations on them now? Why now? You was throwing it out there like nothing before. So why are you putting limitations on it now? At first, they was pushing it that everybody needed to get it. Now it's restricted. Again, hypocrisy. They showing you who they are. People sit there and try to push things on you out of fear, but only for profit and only for greed. And we'll fall for it. We'll sit there and fall right for it. When JEHOVAH already told us that he made medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. He told us that. But we sit there and go against it. And we follow after everything else. So people create issues and then convince you that they're going to fence them. Matter of fact, I got to show y'all this because I really want y'all to see this because honestly, I thought that this is one of the craziest things that I seen and I was showed. So I want to show you guys because now, and this was my first time hearing about it even today. You got the same thing on this same deceit, on this same hypocrisy that we do. You got all these wild hogs. You got wild pigs, wild hogs running around in Texas. And they trying to say that Texas has this wild hog, this wild pig problem. And they running around all throughout people's neighborhoods. They destroying farms. They destroying farmer crops. They destroying gardens. So the question is, if Texas, they got all these wild hogs running around like crazy, and they saying that they've been doing this for decades, which they lying on that. How did the hogs get there in the first place? How they get there? You telling me that the hogs just went on a rampage and they just started running around all over the place? Because it's going to show you how jacked up. It's going to show you how jacked up this world is because we the ones who cause problems. But then again, we act like we going to fix them. I want to show you this. Look at this. Look at it. Because I made sure I had these videos here so you guys can actually see this. Look at this.
Pigs gone wild. Researchers found that Texas has the worst feral hog problem in the entire country. Wild hogs cause a lot of destruction, and researchers estimate around $2.5 billion in agricultural damage each year. And hogs in Texas are thriving. We're told they can reach up to 5 feet in length and weigh as much as 400 pounds. The data was collected by researchers at the University of Georgia and published on behalf of the company Captain Experience.
Now, I know that you guys seen them pigs running around them neighborhoods. And now these is like suburban neighborhoods. These neighborhoods right here. I know you see these pigs running around in these neighborhoods. These are suburban type neighborhoods. Where in the world you see a bunch of wild pigs running around in suburban neighborhoods? You tell me one place you see this happening. that you're seeing right now. And you really think all of that is just normal? Being in the fields is one thing, but you telling me that this is normal, that these pigs just running around in these suburban neighborhoods and people didn't put them there? Where else you gonna see pigs running around a neighborhood like that? But the first thing they gonna tell you, well, hey, Texas got this hog problem. No, y'all got a hog problem because you made the hog problem in the first place. That's why you got a hog problem, because you caused the problem. But now you're gonna see because of that. Watch how they benefit off of this. Watch how they sit here and benefit off of this. Because I want to show you. Look at this.
In Texas right now that outnumbers the human population of the city of Houston. It moves at night in family groups through the pasture behind the farmhouse and the greenbelt behind the subdivision. It can smell a cornfield from a mile off, and it can turn 100 acres of that field into churned mud before sunrise. Texas has spent decades and hundreds of millions of dollars trying to kill it, with rifles, with helicopters, with poison, with traps the size of a garage. And every single year, there are more of them than there were the year before. The animal is the feral hog. Texas Parks and Wildlife puts the number in the state at around 2.6 million. 50 landscape this size. That is the trap at the center of this entire story.
Now watch now pay attention to how they saying they gonna take care of, how they saying they taking care of this problem. Pay attention to the solution that they got. Like I said, they caused the issue, now they gonna fix it. Watch this. Watch what they say.
The pig breeds faster than we can kill it. Everything that follows is just people discovering that fact the hard way. So the obvious answer is hunt them, and Texas has made that as easy as any state ever has. You don't need a hunting license to kill a feral hog on private land. You can hunt them year-round, day or night, with thermal scopes and night vision. There are outfits that will strap you into a helicopter and let you fire on sounders from the air, the so-called pork choppers, at around $20 a pig in the open Texas country where they work best. Texans kill an enormous number of these animals every year, and it isn't enough. It isn't even close. Here's what the biologists have learned, and it's counterintuitive enough that
So you seeing everything that they talking about. So again, they telling you they got this feral hog problem, that these animals gone wild. Now, the issue is, again, the lust of the heart of man. See, they create the problem, they create the issue, and now they're going to tell you, okay, we got this issue here, now we're going to come up with a way to fix it. So people create problems, again, to create their own solutions, which ain't really solutions, but it's to manipulate the mind of other people into thinking that they doing something. But this is what they good at doing. So even at that time, they told you they had like over 1.5 million feral pigs in Texas, and that was 2 years ago. Today, it's over 2 to 3 million of them. So tell me, if the number keep increasing, if they going out here, you don't have to have no hunting license. You could just go to a private farm and tell them you gonna kill these hogs. You don't gotta have no type of hunting license. So you tell me, if they been killing so many of these pigs, then why do the numbers keep increasing? If they killing so many, if they out here and they just killing all these pigs, then why it keep increasing? Knowing that these hogs can populate really fast. But if they killing so many, then why it keeps increasing? So all these farmers and gardeners are having all these problems in their farms with these hogs destroying their crops. But you don't even have to have a license to go out there and hunt them. Shoot, we could get a group of guys here. We could get a group of guys here right now. We could all go over to Texas right now and say we here to hunt some dang hogs. And them farmers, they gonna pay us. They gonna pay us to get rid of all those animals. We could get a whole bunch of those right now. Think about how much wealth, money, and profit you gonna get behind that. I guarantee you, it's like you got a lot of people right here who probably thinking right now, shoot, I might need to go do that. Yeah. Yeah, that's the point. But think about all the profit and gain that these companies and these hunting clubs is making from killing all these animals like this. Something that God made for what he created it for. He didn't create it for that, not for that purpose. And they using them for their own gain, for their own profit, for their own benefit. You got hunting clubs can go to these farms, get whatever they want from it, charge the people there whatever they want for exterminating these animals. And they're going to make sure they're going to get paid big bucks for it. When they created the problem themselves. So the solution is just to kill them, but it's for their own profits, for their own benefit, because they already know that these farmers are going to pay big money to get rid of those hogs. Hunting companies are going to get paid big money to stay in business to get rid of those hogs. It's nothing but a game to them. Farmers are going to pay big money to people to go out here and kill all these pigs. That's turned into nothing but business for profit. To catch and kill these hogs, issues that they cause, but now they're going to profit off of it. Again, lust, power, wealth, money, greed, pleasure, all from the desires of the heart. Everything that you see here, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, evil understanding, all of it. It's all there. It's all there. That's manipulation. But guess what? We sit there, we get caught up in that stuff, we believe it. That's the lust of the desires of the heart. But again, it's showing you how the desires of the heart work to come up with these many inventions that people come up with and get paid for stuff like this. And we go after it because it's showing you what we're about when we do things like that. Same thing you see right here. In Proverbs chapter 23. You tell us something. In Proverbs chapter 23. And we just need this part right here. Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 7. It says, comparing as he think in his heart. Yeah, what you think in his heart. You see that? As he think, so is he. So again, you have many people who will use these types of manipulative tactics even on other people. You even have people who will try to guilt trip people over things. Always try to make you feel like you the bad person. Then they try to gaslight you and make you feel like you the bad guy. They try to play on your emotions and always try to point the finger right back at you. People do things like this. Those type of people are full of deceit. Those are manipulators because he already thought it out. He already thought it out how he was going to get you. But again, people don't do these things randomly. These thoughts and imaginations are reasoned out in the mind. They are planned. It's calculated. But that's showing you what their desire is. As he think in his heart, so is he. Because it all started in his desire. He already had it there. That's showing you that their heart is wicked like that. And then what you got? We got pride. Like I said, a lot of us, all I'm doing is just showing us that these are all our issues here. We got plenty of issues here, but so we can clearly see what's going on. Because he tell us in Sirach chapter 10 and verse 12, he let us know. He said, at the beginning of pride is when one departed from God. But watch this, in his heart. Bingo. You see how we can't get away from it? You see how we're not getting away from this? His heart is turned away from his maker. That's exactly the point. So you see again how the conversation is not changing. It's never changing. The heart is turned away from JEHOVAH. The heart that is turned away from JEHOVAH and is turned towards self is one who exalts himself in his own pride. This is why you have a lot of people, you got a lot of us, even right now, we walk around, act like we have knowledge on things that we really don't. We want to put ourselves on pedestals and put ourselves like we in high positions thinking we somebody because we sitting there, we lusting after power and our own pleasure. That's what's in our desire. But then as soon as we get exposed for a lack of knowledge, now we want to hide in the background and act like we all humble now because we don't want people to know who we are and see us for who we really are. Because we ashamed. So we sit there, we choose to stay quiet and say nothing because we don't want to be exposed for our lack of knowledge. And you're going to sit there, you're going to reason that out in your own mind and come up with your own excuses for why you're doing what you do. All of that is the pride of a wicked heart that has already departed away from JEHOVAH. He already done departed. Your desire already elsewhere. So all of this is showing you, again, this is what we get into. So we have all these issues that come from our hearts, and this is why we struggle so much, because we too dang caught up in this world that we shouldn't be. But he tells us that. He tells us that when we go over here to 2nd Esdras chapter 4. He tells us, 2nd Esdras chapter 4 and verse 2, it says, and said, thine heart have gone too far in this world, and thinkest thou to comprehend the way of the Most High? Really? So you see, this ends with a question that we all have to consider from within ourselves. Do we truly believe that we comprehend the ways of the Most High when our desires are too far off into other things of this world? Why do we think we sit there and we suffer so much in this life and yet lack the understanding that we should have? Like I said, a lot of our hearts have gone too far off into other things. So if we consume by the things of the world, then we only going to come up with evil, wicked imaginations that continuously corrupt our thoughts. We seen that in Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. The imaginations of man was only evil continually. The imaginations of his heart was only evil continually. Why? Because we too far off in this world. So again, how do we truly think we're going to comprehend the ways of the Most High? We become so consumed with the things we desire in this life that those very desires completely occupy our mind, because everything we focus on becomes carnal things. Everything becomes focused towards carnal things. Everything we ponder on is what we can see, what we can touch, what we can gain and possess. Then we're going to start reasoning within ourselves that the things that we need in this present life is going to be our primary focus. That's what we'll do. That's why we start going after those things first. Because a lot of us, we sit in here and we try to live in two worlds. We try to live in both worlds. We try to live for God, and then we're going to try to live for the world too. That's not going to happen. We can't be lukewarm. We can't be in between. But this is why a lot of us suffer, because a lot of us, we cause that suffering upon ourselves. That's the difference. We suffer because we're trying to live on both sides. And this is why we suffer so many sorrows. And that's why we keep having the issues. But I want to show us something. Even with that, with these, and I want to show us over here in Genesis chapter 3. I want us to look at this, because he even tell us something in Genesis chapter 3. And we're going to look at verse 16 and verse 17. He tell us, it says, unto the woman, he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And to Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and have learned of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not learn of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow thou shalt learn of it all the days of thy life. So you can see what he said. He told us already from the beginning that we was going to go through this. We was going to go through a lot of things. That's why he said unto the woman. So to our spirit would he greatly multiply this sorrow and this conception. So what we conceiving in our understanding, that we're going to bring forth these children, these works, which we supposed to be bringing forth works unto repentance of our sins. That's why he telling us this. But you see, in sorrow thou shalt learn of it all the days of thy life. So we gonna learn of this, all these works of the flesh, and all this stuff that we done did, all this stuff that we done sat there and we done decided that we want to get into. He gonna make sure that we learn of it. He gonna make sure that we clearly understand what it is. All those issues of life that's coming from the desires of the heart that we just talked about. He gonna make sure we eat of it. He gonna make sure we understand it. He gonna make sure we learn of it all of our days. So we can know exactly what those things are. Because that's the only way that we're going to learn from it. That's the only way that we're going to understand it. So that's why he puts these things before us so we can see it. That's exactly why the same thing that you actually see right here in Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 down to 21. That's why you see this here. It says, now the works of the flesh are manifest, are made known, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness. A lot of these we already seen. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, immolations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, rivalings, and such like. Are the things which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past, and that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So all these things we can see. All of these are works of the flesh that comes from the wicked heart of man. So these desires are going to corrupt our mind. That's the war within. That's the battle right here. This is our enemy. These are our enemies right here that you see. But he has to make sure we learn of it. These works of the ground. Not we sitting there and we going after these things, we doing them. No, we need to understand it so we can refuse it. We need to know exactly what these things are. That this should bring us back to the remembrance of our sins. So it ain't for us to be sitting here wallowing in this stuff here. But we already know we have to go through things in this life. This is what we have to understand. We already know this. That's why he even tell us. I want to show us. I want to show us here. I want to show us here, even in 2nd Esdras, which he even tell us right here. In 2nd Esdras chapter 7, verse 7, it says, the entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there was fire on the right hand and on the left deep water. So we already know these things are on every side. So we already know we got these dangers on every side. You got these desires and these temptations on one side, and then you got all these knowledges that can drown us on the other side. He telling us. So we're gonna take it to verse 12. He tell us, it says, and only one path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. If this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, so if we don't ever pass through those things there, how shall he receive this inheritance? And I said, it is so, Lord. Then he said unto me, even so also is Israel's portion. Because for their sakes I made the world, and when Adam transgressed my statutes, which you see over here, then was decreed that now is done. That's why he telling you. That's why he tell you. In sorrow, we going to bring forth these works because we got to learn on these ways to come to the remembrance of our sins. That's why we got to go this way. That's why we have to go this straight and narrow path. He tell you, then were the entrances of this world made narrow. Exactly the point. Here you go. Full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, full of perils and very painful. That's why we have to go through some things here. This is exactly why this has to happen. So this is our portion, to pass through these things, to pass through these trials here. So this is the pathway to redemption. But the problem is everybody not Israel. That's the issue. Everybody not Israel. Everybody want to say that they are, but then we show and do things differently. And the reason is because no matter what, we're going to keep going through the same stuff over and over and over again. If we got to keep going through the same trials, we got to keep going through the same issue, it's showing you we ain't Israel. We're going to say we Israel, but we really children of the flesh. We're not the children of God. Because we shouldn't have to keep going through the same issue. Because those desires going to keep coming. They're not going to stop. So the dangers are set to show us it's not the direction that we want to go. So we got to face those challenges head on. That's why we supposed to stay on that straight and narrow path. But like I said, a lot of us, we gonna go off and do other things because of our own desires for whatever reason. So the real struggle is the worldly desires that we don't want to let go of. Because now, once we came to the knowledge of the truth and we decided to walk this path, but now if we sit there and we still trying to go back to other things, we still trying to do stuff our own way, and we think we're going to work things out the way we want to do it, and then when it don't work out for us, it's going to show. Now we understand why we having the issues that we having. This is what causes the sorrow of mind. Because we even going to see there's a difference between godly sorrow and worldly sorrow. We're going to see that, and we're going to find that out. But many of our sorrows that we have can come from our own disobedience in this world against Jehovah. It come from our own choices, our own disobedience and our own rebellion. Because he even tell us this. Because I want to show you. Because he tell you right here in Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15, it says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, the Spirit of God thy guide, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So we already know, which the elder, he already explained to us, these curses, they ain't really curses. We already know that. But these are results of disobedience. That's what they are. So he let you know, you sitting there, we do anything contrary to Jehovah, and we don't hearken unto his voice to follow his commandments and his statute, then we're going to face these. This is going to be our result for our own disobedience and our own stubbornness. He letting us know. Everything from verse 15 down are results of our own disobedience against Jehovah. So these are not things that just happen and just cause. People think, I'm going through so much. I got all this going on because I'm under these curses. No, that's not true. It ain't just because we bound by curses. No, it's not that. But it's showing us that these results, these are the outcome. This is the consequences of our own actions that we choose. Why? Because we let our heart control our mind. So we got to deal with the consequences of that. You choose that, deal with the consequences of it. This is worldly sorrow. That's the issue. Matter of fact, you see this because you sit there. That's why you see this here in verse 65. He tell you right here, Deuteronomy 28, verse 65. You see it right here. It says, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease. No ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot, thy desire, have rest. But the Spirit of God, you see that? The Spirit of God, you see, here come the consequence. Here comes the result right here. But the Spirit of God should give thee a trembling heart and a failing of eyes, a failing of understandings, and a sorrow of mind. You see it right there. So sorrow functions as distress, remorse, despair, languish, unhappiness, grief, anguish, sadness. Think about all of it. We have all these issues. This is something that we do to ourselves. That's why I'm telling you. Like I said, remember I told us earlier, we create problems for ourselves and then we act like we're going to fix it and find a solution. I know you remember I was telling us earlier, but I guess we was too caught up on the pigs. But guess what? We needed to look back at ourselves. We create issues, and now we think we're gonna fix it. But we the ones that created it. A lot of people will find themselves in bad situations based on bad choices and bad decisions when things don't work out our way. When things don't work out the way we wanted to go, now we got to deal with issues here. Now we find ourselves in sorrow. We find ourselves in despair. We find ourselves in this grief, this sadness. Why? Because we don't sit there instead of hearkening unto Jehovah's counsel, we listen to our own counsel. We follow our own mind and our own heart. That's how we get here. You see what the issues is? You got people who's always in distress, who's always down, who's always in sadness, feeling like they always in despair. When we the ones that create these self-inflicted wounds. They self-inflicted. When God told us, okay, you don't hearken to me, and you go contrary to me, okay, I'm going to go contrary to you. That this was going to be the result of that. That's what I want us to understand here. See, this ain't got nothing to do, I want us to clearly understand, this ain't got nothing to do with, we just in the world and we got to face all these trials and persecution coming our way. This ain't got nothing to do with that. That ain't got nothing to do with that at all. This right here is a result of disobedience. People deal with this because of their own choice. This is why we have the issues that we have. See, this is no different from you can have someone who create financial instability in their own life by sitting there trying to live above their own means because they trusted in their money more than they trusted in God. You can see this. That's why he even tell you in 1 Timothy chapter 6. He even tell you in 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10, it says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, while some coveted after, because that's what your desire was. They have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. This is why I say a lot of us will sit there and we'll create our own issues. We create our own problems. You can have a man who's sitting there who's struggling in life. He may be heavily financially burdened, even barely getting by. He's sitting there living from paycheck to paycheck, paycheck to paycheck, paycheck to paycheck. He barely getting by. overwhelmed by constant bills, all this pressure of debt on every side. But came from living a life of wasting his own money and buying vain things and never learned to manage his own finances. But now he finds himself in debt that he can't get himself out of. Guess what? Now he consumed by sorrow. He had, instead of seeking wise counsel and wise advice on how to actually go about managing his finances, we sit there and say, you know what? I'm gonna do it my own way. I'm gonna do things the way I want to do it. Now guess what? You find yourself in a bad situation. Now you find yourself in debt. Now you consumed by many sorrows. Sorrow of the mind. Why? Because of his own choices. So now, because of the desire to escape from the bad situation, now that same desire consumes the thought of the mind. Now you're going to start reasoning on how you're going to get yourself out of something. You created the problem, now you're going to try to fix it. That's what we're going to try to do every time. Now you got all these thoughts weighing you down. The thoughts of losing your home weighs heavy on you. The thoughts of not being able to pay the rent weighing heavy on you. The thoughts of not being able to provide food on the table weighing heavy on you. The thought of not being able to pay your bill or even live comfortably in life weighing heavy on you. So now it continually burdens the mind with all these sorrows. Like I said, this ain't no game. This ain't nothing to play with. But guess what? You know how many people we sit there and we have these issues and we just keep going day to day with these same issues. That's why he tell you, for the corruptible body presseth down the soul, and the earthly tabernacle weigheth down the mind that museth upon many things. All of it taking a toll on you. It's all taking a toll on. Now it's all weighing you down. Why? Because of your own choice. Because of our own disobedience. Because of our own stubbornness. Because it's taking you right back to the same thing. I know we're seeing it now. I know we understanding it. Why these things weigh us down? Because we sitting there letting it happen because we so dang stiff-necked. We so dang hard-headed. When somebody try to sit there and try to give us some advice on something, try to give us counsel, we going to sit there and say, nope, I'm going to do it my own way. Okay. When you go out there and you mess up, don't come crying back later, because he tell us exactly why we keep having the issues we having. It says, an obstinate heart shall be laden with sorrows. Why? Because an obstinate heart, that letting you know this obstinate heart is stubborn. Matter of fact, let me just go here. I want to show us, because this is a word we don't really go to much. So I want to show us obstinate. So I want to see. You see that? You see that? An obstinate heart. Stubborn. A stubborn heart. A stiff-necked heart. The one who's hard-hearted. One who's rebellious. One who's disobedient. You see that? Because a lot of us, we still stubborn. We still disobedient. We still stiff-necked. We hard-headed. We hard-hearted. We rebellious. That's why these many sorrows, these many afflictions, and these many distresses keep coming in. Because if it's of our own stubbornness. We stubborn like a dang mule. Can't get us to do nothing right. A lot of us will sit there and get counsel and advice on things. We get godly counsel. We get advice. Then we sit there and go against the advice that we given because we thought we seen a better way to do something. Then when it don't work out for us, now we want to come back to the one we got the counsel from, and now we want them to help us out. Why we won't help them? You didn't listen to the advice, the counsel anyways. So why you want it now? That's the point. Because we stubborn. We don't listen. We stiff-necked. So that's why I keep telling we still go out here and do things our own way. And when it don't work out, now we dealing with all this sorrow. We dealing with all this sadness, all this grief, all this despair and this doubt in our mind. We did that. That's what I'm trying to get us to see. We keep doing this to ourselves. That's what I'm showing us. We doing it. Why you think he tell it? He said, and thy life shall hang in doubt before thee. Thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have no assurance of thy life. Why? It's our own dang fault. Because we don't, that's the consequence of our own rebellion, of our own stubbornness, and our own hard-headedness. See, let me help us make it easy for us to help us understand. This is no different from, let's say that you have to take an exam in a classroom. Let's say you got this final exam you have to take to pass, and you know that you have to take this exam. And you know, in order to pass that exam, to pass that class, you know, you need to study for it. You need to listen to the teacher's instructions. And you know, you need to ask questions on what you don't know. And you know, if you don't study for it, then you're not going to pass the class. And you most likely going to fail. See, this you already know beforehand, before you took the exam. So if you choose to come to class unprepared, not having studied, not listening to their teacher's instructions, nor have you asked any questions, and you come in there and you flunk the exam, you failed the exam, that was the result of not following instructions. It don't mean that you see, that's what I'm trying to get to understand. So these curses and these blessings, that's based on a choice. We're not bound by one or the other. That's why people think we bound by the curses. We're not bound by one or the other. Just like a passing grade, you're not bound by the A, neither are you bound by the F. That's based on the choice that you make, and that's going to decide if you're going to pass or if you're going to fail. So, like I said, so if you come in there, you fail the exam, that was the result of not following the instructions, because that's what you chose. Now, guess what? Now, when you fail the exam, now what you dealing with? Now you dealing with the sorrow of having a failing grade. You know how many people? Hey, I know a lot of us here. We can't stand if we ever fail something. We be all jacked up. We be all messed up. Yeah, because you dealing with the sorrow of a failing grade. Why? Because you didn't prepare yourself. Now you got to retake that class all over again. Why? Because you didn't prepare yourself. Now you got all this sorrow of mind. You dealing with that now. Why? Because of your own choice. That's how it works. When all you had to do was make sure that you was properly studied so you would be well equipped to actually pass. Which also would have been, which could have resulted in a passing grade if you followed those instructions. So the result of not following instructions is what caused the sorrow. Not because it just happened for no reason. No, it was by choice. So it's the same thing here with Jehovah. He puts both blessings and cursings before us. That's why you see this here. That's why you see this in Deuteronomy, because we already know he already put both sides before us. So we already know what we're going to do. That's why you see this here. He said, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you. I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life. He already put both before us. He put those instructions before us. But we're going to choose which one we're going to get. Because if we choose not to follow his instructions, his commandments, his judgments, his laws, and we reject godly counsel to do things our own way, guess what? When those trials come, we're going to fail each and every single time. You're going to fail. Then we're going to sit there. Now we're going to sit there. Now we all sad. Now we crying. Ooh. Now we boo-hooing. Like, I don't know why I keep going through this. Lord, I don't know why I keep going through. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I got all this going on. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Look, we all sorrowful. Now we can't find out. Now we can't figure out why we keep going through the same thing. When it's clear because we were choosing to go about things our own way. Because we wanted to go after our own desire. because I'm going to tell you, it's so many issues that we got with that. Because hopefully this making sense to us on how this actually working. But we have to see that we got some serious issues with this, because a lot of this, even if we don't get this stuff in check, these sorrows can actually bring forth death. That's why I said it's gonna lead to death, and we gotta make sure that we correct this, because you can even see in Sirach chapter 38 in verse 18. Sirach chapter 38 verse 18 down to 20, it says, "For if heaviness cometh death," I'm telling you, that's what I tell you. "For if heaviness cometh death, and the heaviness of the heart breaketh strength." It's serious. "In affliction also sorrow remaineth, and the life of the poor, the one that's lacking understanding, is the curse of the heart. Take no heaviness to heart, drive it away, and remember the last end." So you see, heaviness, this is sorrow, this is grief, this burden, this guilt. We weigh ourselves down with this stuff. You know how many people sit here and we sit there, we always weighing ourselves down with all these burdens, this guilt and this grief. We always sitting there and we just wallowing in that stuff. We always holding on to stuff that we done did in the past, and we sitting there and we can't let it go. We just won't let it go. Why are we sitting there doing that? He telling you, don't do this. That's what's gonna cause it. That's what's gonna cause us so many issues. You know how many people out here in this world that have allowed the sorrow of the heart and of the mind to even take them out of here, take them out from this world? That people have even taken their own life behind stuff like this. You know how many people that sitting there that's fallen into depression and into sadness and grief all behind things like this alone? Think about how many people who've been tempted to or have even taken their own lives behind sorrow of mind. Think about how many people that's done that because of the heaviness of the heart. Because we allow our own situations and our own circumstances and the struggles to become the catalyst. They become those stressors for us. And it causes us to have all different types of issues, not only physically, but also mentally in the mind. Why you think they can put people on all these different type of medications for depression and for anxiety and all this stuff? And all of that, again, is nothing but based on the desire that they're doing. But we put our trust more in the world, what the world offers us, instead of what JEHOVAH telling us. When he the only one that can heal us, that stuff can't do nothing for you. But all behind, we struggle fighting this battle of the mind. What most people don't even realize, like I said, a lot of us, when we severely struggle with this, especially after we don't receive counsel, especially after we don't receive instruction, doctrines, and teaching, this heaviness and sorrow, when we got all this going on, we can't get rid of it. You can't shake it off no matter what. Most people don't realize that's a spiritual condition now, because that's a result of disobedience, because we letting our flesh win. We sitting there, we letting flesh win the battle after we don't receive instruction, after we don't receive these doctrines and teachings, knowing what we supposed to be doing, and we still sitting there and choose to go otherwise. So guess what? We let our hearts control our choices, which again results in more issues. Again, because he tell us the same thing, because it go right back over here. And for what reason? I don't know why we keep putting ourselves in the same position. Because he tells us right here, you see it right here in Leviticus. He telling you the same thing in Deuteronomy, which Deuteronomy is a reiteration of what you actually seeing right here in Leviticus. He telling us, but if you will not hearken unto me and will not do all these commandments, he telling us again, he gonna show us this is what's gonna happen. And if you despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, my doctrines and teachings, so that you will not do all my commandments, but you break my covenant, I will also do this unto you. You see that? Guess what? We don't want to hold to JEHOVAH. Then guess what? If we ain't going to hold to his covenant, okay, he ain't going to hold to it with us. We sit there, we turn our backs on him. Guess what? We forsake him. He going to forsake us too. You see it right here. He said, I'm going to also do this to you. I will even appoint over you terror, consumption, and the burning ague. Watch this. That shall consume the eyes. It's going to consume your understandings and cause sorrow of heart. You see it again. And you shall sow your seed in vain. You're going to sow your word in vain, for your enemies shall eat it. It ain't going to profit you nothing. It ain't going to profit you nothing at all. So that's why I say, why we always going to have the issue. So we sitting there in the stress. We suffering all these pains. We suffering all this constant hardship, this constant trouble and persecution. You're always feeling like you in despair. You're always feeling like you're hopeless, like it ain't no hope. All this unhappiness, that is going to consume us. That is going to consume our mind. Even knowing the word, it's still going to be in vain, because we still showing that we rebellious. We still showing that we disobedient. So you see, we are the ones that's going to cause that. So when people say that they constantly going through things like that, especially after you know what the truth is, that sorrow of the heart is an outcome. It's the result of a rebellious heart against JEHOVAH. That's what it is. That's the point. But we have to clearly understand something. People think, when we sit there, people sit there thinking that just because we following Jehovah and we gonna face challenges in this world because they gonna suffer persecution for following the ways of Christ, that's the same thing. And it's not. Those are two different things. It's not the same thing. So when you see people look at things like this here, I want to show us this because we thinking that we just gonna be having all these issues, and that's not the case. Because you see this over here. I want to show us in 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 12. Then I'm going to pull another one in with it. It says, Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. Yeah, because those things are going to happen. Same thing like you see here. Same thing like you see here in 2 Timothy chapter 3. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 12. He tell us, 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 12, it says, Yea, and all that will live godly in Christ Jesus, so in the anointed way of salvation, shall suffer persecution. So these things are going to happen. But I want you to clearly understand something. So strange things will happen. Why? Because Jehovah going to prove us. And you're going to face persecution, which is to try your faith. But the difference is we're going to be proven on that. But those things not going to just keep happening constantly. You're just going to keep going through trial after trial after trial after trial. Because why Jehovah going to keep putting you through all that suffering if you truly following Christ? That makes no sense. Because why God going to keep putting you through hell over and over and over again and keep putting you through hardship over and over and over again, making you suffer over and over and over again and causing you this sorrow of heart, and you sitting there and you truly walking with God? That makes no sense. Does that even make sense to anybody? See, if we truly rolling with God, then why is God going to keep putting one of his servants through constant pain and constant suffering? I really want you to think about that. If you truly walking with God, if you truly serving the Most High God, then why he going to keep putting one of his servants through constant pain and constant suffering constantly? I really want us to think about that, because that makes no sense. So we have to understand it's a difference. If we obedient to Jehovah, you'll have people who will come at you all different types of ways, who will come at you. They'll come at you and do you wrong. They'll come at you and treat you wrong and do all these things. That's what you see in here. So don't think it's strange when those things happen and these persecutions come. Don't think that's strange, but you got to consider something. If you truly following God, then who's the one that's going to have the issue? Who's going to have the problem? Because I want to show you something here, because then you have to understand that now we got an issue. Because now when you look at this in Exodus chapter 23 and verse 22, so now if we doing what we supposed to do, he tell you right here, it says, but if thou shalt indeed, so in works, obey his voice. So if you doing this and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thy enemies and an adversary unto thy adversaries. You see the point? So this is what I'm talking about, because the same thing is, because I gotta pull Deuteronomy in with it, because he gonna tell you the same thing, right? Look, Deuteronomy chapter 28. Now you see here in verse 1, it says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Spirit of God thy God, to observe and do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Spirit of God thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if providing thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Spirit of God thy God. So now you see how it switches. This is still results, but this is the results of obeying Jehovah's voice and hearkening unto what he's telling us to do. That's the difference. Now watch this in verse 7. It says, the Spirit of God shall cause thy enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face, and they shall come out against thee one way. Like I said, they're going to come at you. These persecutions and these strange things going to happen. They're going to do that, but watch this. And flee before these 7 ways. That's the point. They ain't gonna be able to do nothing against you. So you see this here. So if, providing you obey his voice, and we doing what we supposed to be doing truly, this would happen, what you see here. He said he going to be an enemy to our enemies, an adversary to our adversaries. He going to cause them to be smitten and flee. So this letting you know, Jehovah is going to protect and take care of those that belong to him. He ain't going to allow you to just be constantly suffering. He ain't going to allow you to just going to be constantly in hardship and facing these problems and these issues like that. He not going to allow his servants to suffer constant like that. See, so you see the same thing. These are the results and the outcome of obedience to Jehovah. If you truly following God with a pure heart, that's the difference. So why in the world he going to keep making you suffer? You see this right here. He going to make sure that he going to hold the same people that's coming out against you. Guess what? They going to flee before you. He going to be an enemy to your adversary. He going to make sure that those same people are going to be responsible for doing his people wrong. He going to make sure they pay for that. These are the results of us being obedient unto him. It ain't that we trying to look for things to happen, but we making sure that we serving God with all our heart, all our mind, and all our soul. Then we see things start changing for us. That's the whole point. That's why you see he's telling us this right here. So you see how we have the issues that we have, but if you constantly suffering, and people are constantly telling you that you just gonna suffer, and people just saying they just keep getting put through hell all the time. They just keep getting put through hell, and all this confusion going on, and you facing all this constant persecution. You facing all this adversity all the time. Then what is that saying about you? Are you really rolling with God, or are you not? You got to answer that within yourself, because he making this clear as day unto us. That ain't going to keep happening if you truly following God. Because those same sorrows are going to bring heaviness due to our own disobedience. That's the result of it. That has nothing to do with anything else but our own stubborn choices to do things the way we want to do it. Because the same thing is, I gotta point this out, because it's just so irritating how you got these dumb, stupid guys that teach this and truly believe that this is the case. They sit here and see Deuteronomy 28:15, and they see all these curses that the Lord gonna bring upon us for our own disobedience. They sit there and they teach people all the time, oh, the curses. You gotta look at the curses. You see, we dealing with these curses. They saying all this stuff gonna happen. That we got to deal with all these curses. This is what they tell you. So then I got a question. Now I want to truly understand something, because now if you look at Deuteronomy 28:65, and he tell you, among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot thy desire have rest, but the Lord shall give thee a trembling heart and a failing of eyes and a sorrow of mind. So if you telling me, if we're going to be going all through all this stuff, and you ain't gonna find no ease, nor are you gonna have any rest, but you just gonna have this trembling heart and this sorrow of mind, and now we ain't gonna never be at rest. You're always worrying, and people wonder why they having an issue and why they can't shake it off. And if you telling me that that we bound under these curses. If you telling me that, then I need to understand something. Because the same thing, these same camp, they gonna tell you, these same dumb camps gonna tell you that you bound under these curses until you get to the kingdom. They tell you that. They teach that. When these curses are results of our own foolishness, of our own continuous rebellion against Jehovah. So again, if we bound by this here, if we are going to be always bound by this here until this world is over, and we always going to be bound by these curses, and we ain't going to find no rest, then if we ain't going to find no rest, then I need to understand something. Then why in the world do Jehovah tell us this here if we take his spirit upon us? Why did he tell us this here in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 down to 30? Because I need to understand that. It says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. But they saying, no, you going to be bound to this over here. Take my yoke upon you, so take my spirit upon you and learn of me. For I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. No, you're going to be bound by this over here. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So again, can somebody explain that to me? If we going to be forever bound by the curses in this life, then why in the world he telling us this over here? Because again, you got these idiots out here that's going to keep telling people that you just bound under the curses, when the only people who's under the curses are those who choose to be continually rebellious against Jehovah. Those are not curses. It's not a curse. It's not a curse. It's just showing you the result, the outcome of what we choose to do. That's it. I don't show. He put both before us. So I don't understand why we so stuck on curses when it's just a result by our choice. Now, when you keep choosing to rebel, we keep holding on to pride and we keep being stiff-necked, we're going to end up in a bad situation. That causes the sorrow of heart and of this mind and this grief. So it can't nothing. That's what brings people into these depressive states of mind as a result of our own choices of being hard-headed. So ain't no man going to fix that. That's why I'm saying. But Jehovah clearly letting us know we need to learn of him. Just learn of him. And we can find rest. He can bring that rest to us through his spirit. He the one that can bring that inner peace to our lives that we can find in God. That's the whole point. That's the difference. That's the difference that we have to understand. That's the difference that we have to understand on that. Because the main thing is, like I said, a lot of it, we keep having the issues that we having, but he tell us main thing that we always forget that we have to see. He tell us this in Matthew 6:33. It says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So we don't have to worry about all this other crap. He telling you to seek ye the kingdom of God first. But people say, yeah, I don't read that. Yeah, but do you understand it? Do we apply it? So we become so consumed with the things of this world that we forget what's supposed to come first. We sit there, hey, ain't nothing else working out for us, yet we continue placing our dependency on everything else except God. We sit there and make all the excuses in the world. Oh, I got to work. I got to go out here. I got to make some money. I got to do this. I got to do that. But guess what? When do you actually put in the time to study? Oh, I got to make time for it. When you going to put in the time for God? Oh, I got to make time for it. I get to it when I get to it. You see why we keep having the issues? But you notice right here, he says, seek. Seek. You see that? That seek is letting you know that that's an action that we have to take. That's a desire. So if we want our lives to change, then our desire has to change. We have to seek the kingdom. We have to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. We have to seek it. That's the point. To seek out first the kingdom, to desire his righteousness. We got to put that first. Because once we do that, he tells you, now, Jehovah can start changing things for us. That's why you see here. That's why you see here in Psalms. That's why you see here in Psalms chapter 37. Now you see he changes this. In Psalms chapter 37 and verse 4, it says, delight thyself also in the spirit of God. Why? Because you desiring after righteousness. That's how you're doing it. And he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. He's going to do this, not us. He's going to do it. You see the difference? You see now it's not you that's doing it. He's doing it. Jehovah going to give you that desire of the heart, not us going after our own desire. Do we see the difference here? Do we see the difference in what's going on? Because he tells us right here in Psalms chapter 10, we see in Psalms chapter 10 and the verse 17. Where is Psalms chapter 10? Verse 17. You see, it says, the Spirit of God, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Why? Because these are the ones that's humbled themselves, that submitted themselves and subjected themselves under Jehovah. Thou will prepare their heart. Not they doing it themselves. He gonna do it. Thou will cause thine ear to hear. That's the point. So once you humbled, once you brought low, that's the point of the broken and contrite heart. That's the repentant heart. That's showing godly sorrow. That's the difference. Which you see it here, which I got to show it to us right here. That's why you see this. That's why I said it's a difference between the two. That's why you see. That's why you see this here. It tell you, it says, For godly sorrow worketh repentance to salvation, not to be repented of. Because once you come to remembrance of it, you shouldn't have to come to that remembrance of those sins anymore. It says, but the sorrow of the world worketh death. That's why I say it's a difference. So once Jehovah prepares our heart, so we want Jehovah to prepare our heart, so then we can keep that mind of Christ. Now, once we learn from all those issues of life, now we can correct it. We shouldn't have to keep going back to it. That's the point. Now, that same sorrow in this flesh can be turned into victory over the flesh. That's how we got to shift that. But but the issue, again, godly sorrow is showing a repentant heart. That's showing one who comes to the remembrance of their sins and turns from them. So the sorrow is only showing you that you recognize that you was in sin. But once you come to the realization of that and confess that, now you can turn from it. It's no different from the publican that you see right here, showing this godly sorrow. You're going to see it right here because he ain't doing nothing crazy. You just see, watch this. You see this in Luke chapter 18, verse 13. It says, and the publican, because he knew he was a sinner, it says, standing afar off, will not lift up so much his eyes unto heaven. It's showing you his humility here. It says, but smote upon his breast, saying, God be merciful unto me, a sinner. You see that? He just asking just God to be merciful unto him. That's the whole point. Because you see, he recognized his error, his fault, and his sin. He confessed of it. That's the whole point. Because that sorrow is showing our repentance, the remembrance of our wicked deeds. We should be able to bring forth the fruits of that. That's why I showed us that before in Genesis. That was the whole point of this here. In Genesis 3:16, unto the woman, so unto our spirit, will I greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. And sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. So these works. And thy desire should be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Because our husband is Jehovah. So we supposed to be bringing forth these fruits, these works meet for repentance. Jehovah, which is our husband, is ruling over us. He's the head. He's going to prepare our hearts and direct us in the way that we should go. So once we confess those things and humble ourselves before Jehovah, he now establishes our heart. And we shouldn't have to keep remembering those past ways. So we have to turn from them. So we should not remain in sorrow, but now we can overcome that and find joy in living in Jehovah, which all of us, we should get this and understand that. But I have to put this here because I have to tell you the difference is because many people, no matter what, you have some people who just merely recognize their sins. They recognize their issues, their errors, yet they never change. That's the reality of it. That's the reality. You may know that you're wrong, but you don't truly desire to change. That's worldly sorrow. Understand that. Not godly sorrow. That's still being profane before Jehovah. That's why he tells us that. That's why we have to be warned of that. Because we sit there, a lot of us, we like to just put on an act, just all acting all out all over the place, but then we actually never change what we're doing. That's why he tell you, lest. So be warned of that. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, as comparing Esau, for who one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Watch this. For you know that how afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected. Why? For he found no place of repentance. He found no place of remembrance. Why? Though he sought it carefully with tears. That's the point. That's why I say you can have, this is what a lot of us here will even do. Just as he found no place for repentance of his wicked deeds and his sins, but he sought it carefully with tears. A lot of us will sit here and do the same thing. You have a lot of people believing that crying is going to do something for them. A lot of people believe that crying is going to change something. We like to throw these pity parties all the time. That's why I told you. We said, oh, Lord, please, Lord, I'm going to do right this time. Lord, I just want to make sure I do right. Oh, I'm going to get it right, Lord. Please, please, Lord, don't let me stay like this, Lord. Please get me out of this situation, Lord. Lord, please, I'm tired, Lord. That's what I'm saying. A lot of us will sit here and do that, thinking tears going to move God, and it's not. You ever seen somebody sitting there crying, acting like they so remorseful, acting like they so sorrowful for something that they did wrong? They sitting here praying, doing all these things, and then as soon as they start feeling better, a couple of hours later, now they right back to their same usual self. They go right back to the same thing. That's the point. Ain't no different from Esau. A lot of people will sit there and cry in front of people just for eye surface, for people to see. They want you to see that they doing it. That's still deceit. Because everybody can see tears. That's the point. Because they can see you crying. Then people goes, oh, they just going through something. This is what we'll do. But you'll have some people who genuinely will cry because they feel sorrowful behind something. So don't get me wrong. You have some people who genuinely will have those emotions. But you have other people who will cry simply so they can get a reaction out of you. Because they already know those tears are going to play on people's heartstrings. They know it's going to play on your emotions. Why? Because those tears ain't no different from poison. Because the poison, you got poison. Poison is a liquid that people can take in and ingest. Tears is a liquid that people can take in. So people can use their tears to convince other people to let things go their own way. You ever seen people who will sit there, they'll be in court, they go on trial in court, and then you sit there, you got that white woman up there, and she start talking and confessing, and then all of a sudden, she just start busting out crying, and she just starts sobbing out of nowhere. Y'all seen that? When they call that crocodile tears, that she got them crocodile tears, because she already know that she gonna get a reaction out of the judge and the jury, and they most likely gonna favor her. Because she done busted out crying, did all this stuff. Why? Because those tears gonna get to their heart. That's the point. Those tears gonna poison the mind. Because she know that she can play on people's emotion by crying. While knowing a lot of them ain't really sorry for nothing. But they gonna cry because they know they can get to your heart. They know they can poison your mind if they start crying because you can see it. That's the point. A lot of people do this to try to get what they want. Again, ain't no different from Esau. But the cash is, same thing. Tears don't move God. That's why he looks on the heart. So tears, man can see, but God gonna look on the heart. So you can show genuine repentance and godly sorrow without even shedding a tear. Because your desire gonna change. That's the point. Because it's gonna show in your actions. But people believe, when they sitting there shedding tears, that's gonna do something. When that's not gonna do anything. It's not going to do anything. That's not going to change anything. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you. Even JEHOVAH, he was doing it. I'm going to show you. He was over there praying. Guess what? I'm going to show you. None of that. God not moved by none of that stuff. Because I won't even show you over here in Matthew chapter 26. You can even see in verse 38. In verse 39, it says, Then saith he unto them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful. You see this? Even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch with me. And he went a little further and fell on his face, praying, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, as I will, but as thou wilt. But I want to show you, he did this 3 times. Because now you see, you jump down here to verse 42, it said, And he went away the second time praying, saying, O my Father, if this cup may pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, his disciples, because they caught up into everything else. They sleep. Their eyes was heavy. Watch this. He left them and went away again and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same word. He's saying the same daggone word. So it's letting you know he going through all this stuff right now. It's letting you know that he about to suffer, that he about to face death. But this is why I say a lot of people will say we can do certain things, but then we'll find out what we're really about in the moment we standing at death's door. That's when you're going to find out. But you see, JEHOVAH, he clearly concerned about his life. He prayed his prayer the same 3 times, saying the same word, if this cup pass from me. Not as thou wilt, but as thou wilt. But again, did that change anything? Do you really think God gonna change because he kept praying? What he praying for? Do you really believe any of this was moving God? Because again, he already know what he got to go through. So what praying gonna do that's gonna change God on anything? All God did was just strengthen him. That's all he did. That's all he did. That's why you see that over here in Luke. That's why you see it over here in Luke chapter 22. You see it right here in verse 41 because it gives us more details. Luke chapter 22, verse 41. down to 44. And it said, and when he was drawn from them about a stone's cast and kneeled down and prayed, watch this, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. Watch this. And there appeared an angel, a messenger unto him from heaven, strengthening him. You see that? He just strengthening him. He just giving him that strength and that courage to continue through with this. He's sitting there like, hey, I feel you, bro. Hey, I understand you. I feel you, but hey, you still gonna go through it. It ain't gonna change nothing. You still gotta do it. That's the whole point. It ain't gonna change nothing. You still gotta deal with this. You still gotta deal with it. And watch this. And even after that, it ain't funny. It ain't funny. But you see, even after that, it said, and being in agony, it let you know he going through it. This man is going through it. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. And his sweat was as it were great drops of blood. It's comparing like it was great drops of blood falling down on the ground. I mean, he praying so hard, it like he probably had a whole dang puddle on the ground. He praying so hard. That's the point. But it showed you how serious Yahushua was about his actual life. It showed you how serious this man was. But you have people who've never faced death before in their life, but they believe if they was put in the same situation that they would be good. When you really don't even know that. You ain't gonna know till you really put in that position. Because I'll be honest with you right now, if that was me in this position, man, I'd be down there, I'd be bawling, I'd be crying, everything. I'll be doing everything. But that's the point. It don't matter. None of that is going to move God. He ain't going to be moved by our crying, by we just praying, thinking he going to change something. He ain't going to change nothing. Whatever Jehovah said, that's what it's going to be. Why? Because he's not looking on flesh, but he's looking on the heart. But you have people that believe that they can just put on a show and they can start crying and boo-hooing and that's going to move somebody. It's not. It's not going to move anything. That's the point. That's the point that we have to understand on this. So it go right back to the same thing. It go right back to the same thing as he tell us in Psalms 34 and 18. Show us what he looking for. Show us exactly what he looking for. Psalms 34 and 18. The Spirit of God is nigh to them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. That's all he's looking for. Not all this extra stuff that we be trying to do. All Jehovah is looking for is genuine repentance for those of us that have chosen to condemn our old fleshly lifestyles. That's what he's looking for. And that's what we have to make sure that we're doing. So he'll tell us again, it said, for godly sorrow worketh repentance unto salvation, not to be remembered of. But the sorrow of the world worketh death. So that's what we have to understand. That's what we have to understand. And that's what we have to make sure that we are doing. We making sure that we making this transition, that we changing over and we going from this transformation process, the shift from this sorrow to joy and gladness that we only gonna find in Jehovah. So we got to overcome this life. If we're gonna overcome this life, we got to take on the life of Christ. That's what we have to do. So with that, hopefully we got some understanding in this lesson, which I had to stop it here anyways, because I had a lot more stuff I didn't want to go through, but I think we should have a pretty good understanding on this, and understanding what we actually need to do moving forward. So again, it's not about our struggles. So we need to get off of that. We can't keep looking at that. But it's about where our desire is truly directed towards. That's what we have to look at. So that's the outcome that we should seek. That's the result that we should seek. So we can receive this victory. We can receive this deliverance and overcoming this flesh, the triumph over this life of sin once and for all. We can do that. But our desire has to be directed towards Jehovah in all things. So if our mind is on those things, then our mind is going to be on the things of Christ. Then our desire should never change. So that's what we have to keep in mind. We have to seek Jehovah for who he is with a whole heart. and for the righteousness that he actually called us to pursue after. So with that, I'd like to appreciate everyone for coming out and tuning in to this lesson. This was Elder James with the King James Bible University, and I would like to say, Shalom.